I smelled her even before the door opened, and my hands clenched around the chair's handle as Olivia entered my private quarters. Her body was tense, and she looked around curiously before her gaze settled on me. As though unnerved, she looked away immediately. How did the moon goddess create such perfection? To reward my waiting? I had spent more than 20 years waiting for my fated mate. For the one that was made for me. Yet, there had been nothing. Eventually, I had settled for an arrangement for the pack's sake. But she was here now. And she was the best fucking thing I have laid my eyes on. Where's Nicole? She squeaked, her voice barely audible. I would have missed it if all of my senses weren't focused on her. I wanted to know everything. I needed to take in her smile, her beautiful blue eyes that shone like the sea. Fuck, I could already imagine running my hands through those large blonde curls that fell over her shoulders. It took me some seconds to realize I hadn't answered her. Nicole. It had been relatively easy to tell that they didn't have the best relationship. Just now, when her mother had been there, she had been fierce and stubborn, like a fiery temptress. My temptress. Nicole won't be joining us, I replied and saw her wring her fingers together. Could she not feel it? Dinner went by slowly, and every now and then, Olivia would look up at me, her blue eyes probing and curious. I was dying to know her, too. But from what Nicole's driver had reported, she had just lost her father. A part of me was tempted to stand up and close the distance between us. To wrap her in my arms and let her know she had me now. Nothing was going to hurt her. But I didn't want to scare her away. She was too important to me. I took a deep breath, calming my wolf that was pushing to claim his mate that was starting to react just from the thought of having Olivia in my arms. Damn man, when did I get laid last? I wasn't attracted to Nicole, but as my Luna, she had the most important thing I needed. She could handle matters very cleanly and made running the pack's internal affairs seem easy. Also, because of how hard she worked, it also meant that I had to give her a certain level of face here in my pack. Meetings outside the pack and checking over my company in the human world were among the few times that gave me a chance to get laid. I hadn't been to one in 2 months. That had to be why. I'm done, Olivia said, her voice breaking through my thoughts and my spine straightened. I frowned as I looked at her plate and the dishes in front of her. Although I had spaced out just now, it was not enough time for her to have eaten enough food. Are you uncomfortable? I asked, and she looked down, biting her lips. Damn. The very action sent some command to me, and I could feel it stirring in my pants. There's nothing to be worried about, I won't bite. That was a lie. I had every intention to bite. Especially with the way she was biting down on her lower lip. If you don't like these, you can have dessert, I snapped my hands, and one of the kitchen staff walked out with a tray in his arm. I didn't like sweets, but I had instructed them to make them for her. I almost gave myself a back pat when her eyes brightened at the popsicles before her. When she picked one up, I realized just how large it was. Her small, pouty mouth was way too small for that. Entranced, I watched as my little mate placed the giant popsicle in her mouth, and as I had guessed, she could only lick from a small corner. A moan fell from her mouth as she tasted it, and every nerve in my body tightened. If she continued at this rate, I wasn't sure I could hold back from bending her over this table and claiming her as mine. Can your mouth take all of it in? I asked, and Olivia's face flushed red, and she burst into a coughing fit. I shot up and rushed to her side without thinking. A move that I regretted because one whiff of her sweet floral scent was more than enough to bring me to my knees. I moved behind the chair. I couldn't let her see just how hard I was for her. For my stepdaughter. Olivia stood up, and my eyes followed her every move. Was she feeling the mate pull the way I was? I could never know if she did because right before I could say a word, Olivia dashed off. My dining room, the same place I had dined in for more than 20 years now, felt too big for my liking. Too empty. Did this affect my little mate? Alpha, we caught a maid about to report to Miss Nicole about the dinner. One of my assistants stepped into the dining room and reported. Remove all the unnecessary help on this floor. Nicole was nosy, and I wasn't ignorant of the fact that she had spent the last year trying to win over my staff. Unfortunately, her position was about to be vacant. My mate was here. Irritation bubbled in my throat as I remembered their relationship. That was one hell of a trick from the moon goddess. However, that didn't matter. Nothing could keep me from my Olivia. Olivia, I called out, testing her name, and when I couldn't hold it in anymore, I stood up, striding out of the dining room. I didn't want her to be away from me. She had barely eaten anything, but judging by how petite she was, I suspected that food was not on her list of favorite things.
Please download Novels Ago and search the code in the upper left corner to continue reading.